Hi, welcome to a new episode of Engineering Rebuilt.
Do you think you know a lot about construction?
Maybe we can provide a fresh perspective.
This is a podcast where we rebuild preconceptions of engineering,
Reclaim the narrative,
and share the voices of women from across the construction industry. Why not join us?
Let's get started.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Engineering Rebuilt podcast. I'm your host Yvonne and together with Lina Soderberg, we will be talking today to the absolutely brilliant Ellen Cail. Ellen, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
A little bit. I work for a company called RSK. It's an environmental engineering and geotechnical consultancy. I've been with them for the last 17 and a half years, up until September as a consultant. So from 2004, I had my own business called P&E Marketing and worked very successfully with RSK. Firstly, with a company called GeoDelft, who were then bought out by RSK. And their acquisition program has gone on over the course of many years, building and expanding RSK through that process. In September last year, following the pandemic, they asked me to join them full-time as an employee. So I'm now Associate Director for RSK, working predominantly with their transport sector and running a team of overall of 24 people.
Wow, that sounds amazing. What does the transport team do?
Predominantly, we head up anything to do with rail, highways, ports, airports. So any of the infrastructure projects that you'll see in the news, looking at HS2, some of the large rail projects we've been involved in is the Crossrail project in London. All three sections. We started with the environmental impact. We had environmental managers seconded in there. We've also been involved in the East-West Rail project, Oxford to Bicester. They were the largest projects we did, and they all happened to come in at one time. So we actually had 5 projects running at the same time. This was about 8 years ago, so that was quite a challenge. And then anything in highways, so the major infrastructure projects, some of the long-term maintenance projects, we work with the contractors for that. So that's quite challenging. And then on the airports, that's actually gone a little bit quieter since the pandemic. But again, working with the contractors and the airports to help on any changes that are done there, again, with the ports as well. So it's mainly looking at their environmental requirements, legislative, everything above ground and below ground that we can actually support. So it's quite an interesting time at the moment with a lot of work going on and very challenging as well. So all in all, that's what that particular section does. And then we look at education, healthcare across the whole of my team, look at property, any environmental requirements that's needed, and any sectors that we can work in, we do. So it's quite extensive. It is. It's challenging. It's interesting. I met Yvonne through one of the projects many years ago, and thankfully, it's nice to meet up with you again. It is actually. You'd be surprised how many people do move around. You follow them through their careers. You see people changing, developing in different ways within different sectors. I mean, our team predominantly, I support within my team now on the rail sector. We have a gentleman called Charlie Fletcher, who is one of our first males to join our group, which is not out of disrespect to men, but it just happened to be a female predominantly sector that we just happen to work in. And it's nice to be joined by a couple of men now and getting their different ideas, different aspects. My team is quite diverse in that we've got mums involved in there. We've got my age, maturing ladies, and that we all come from different backgrounds, but all with a sort of nice approach to our work individually as well. They bring in an awful lot of talent, new ideas, new approaches to how our industry and how people see our direct sales team are working. So, and we've gone from 3 people originally in 2004 when I first joined. We just had 3, and when the company was quite small, it was only 250 people at that time. And over those few years, the company has acquired, I think it's 160 businesses in that time, and we've grown at the minute to a company just over 10,000 people. So, and I'm proud to say within that team of 3, we've helped develop that sales team and helped develop the company, some of the new processes that we brought in to help expand the business, and I think we're quite respected within our business. So it's nice to see it develop and get to the stage now. I have to say I'm quite proud of that, to have had that input with a good team behind us, and really very, very nice colleagues. The directors of the company it makes you feel quite part of the family.
That's so important, to feel like you're a part of something bigger than perhaps just what you can influence on a day-to-day. And it's amazing to hear that, that comes with a lot of pride, because that's so important as well. I guess what does your role look like on a day-to-day basis, and what parts of it do you enjoy the most?
It could be meetings back to back, helping some of the new ideas, new processes within the teams. Today has been quite exceptional. One aspect is supporting my team, individual requirements that they may have. Another aspect will be looking at supporting the business development directors in meetings. They want specific areas that they might be looking at, specific projects that they might be looking at. So we discuss how we're going to approach that, who we're going to approach, why we're going to approach it. And then we've actually had a new business development director who will be handing over his highways side to another colleague. So we've had a 2-hour meeting looking at what his ideas are, the new business development director and the old one who's leaving, sort of putting forward, handing over what he's been doing. So it can be anything like that. Some days I can actually be on the phone making phone calls to contacts as well. That is basically predominantly my job, is to be on the phone, be in contact with any of the contractors that we want to work with, solving their problems. I mean, predominantly that would be an area that is foremost in our minds. They have a project to do. They have certain things on environmental requirements that they must have, and certain surveys. So it means that we're that conduit. We sort of dig a little bit, as Yvonne may remember, as to what they need, what are their biggest issues, how can we help them, what services we have that can support them, get them to where they need to be it as a tender or be it as an actual project delivery. So it's a lot of fact finding, quite a bit of research that we have to do. But mainly it's looking at the relationships that we've got, expanding on those, and ensuring that we keep that relationship open. I like to think that any of my contacts from over the last 17 years that I've built, they can pick up the phone. They should have that sort of relationship with them, that if they need, say, an ecology report, they can say, right, I'll phone Ellen. She'll know how to help me. She'll put me in contact with somebody, or a ground investigation report, an asbestos, or can you do a surface water survey for us? That's the sort of inquiries we get in on a day-to-day basis. Others will be, I've got a whole list. Who do I need to speak to? And we'll take that on board, and I'll say, look, I'll sort it out for you. We'll do the hard work behind, and then we will bring the proposal to you as a one document, and we'll ensure that will be the best price-wise, but also the quality of the service is foremost in your mind, and make sure that we can ensure that it's a seamless process. That's what I want to say, really. So it's more sort of keeping our business, our contacts happy. That's my aim in life.
No, it's 8 years since we worked together. God, doesn't time fly?
Is it really? Gosh, is it really that long? Oh heavens!
And I was thinking, you want to be remembered as somebody that you can pick up the phone. As soon as we started doing this podcast, you were one of the people that was like top of my list of people that I wanted to get onto the podcast, and it's because you stuck in my head as somebody who was really into solving the problems and creating the solutions. And that's kind of, I mean, Lina and I are both problem solving humans. This is something that we like doing, and it struck me that you were a similar person. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting thing. So you started the RSK 17 years ago. What did you do before that? I'm being curious, Ellen. What was your career path into RSK? Yeah, I mean, we've had some really interesting career paths. And we talked to some of our guests, and they've had some really, really diverse career paths. So go on, let's see how diverse we can go with career paths here.
Oh, yes. Well, I first started off, I actually was brought up in the hotel industry. My parents ran hotels and pubs and what have you. So that's where it started. So I studied as a hotel manager. That's what I thought my career was going to go. And then when I finished studying, I decided that really I did not like it at all. I didn't want to be doing the late hours. And I went to work, oddly enough, in Scotland for a company called Canon, which you may remember from years ago. And I went to work in Scotland, covering Scotland, selling fax machines for them when they were the rage. It was, completely away from anything else. And then I got married. I had some children, and my career sort of just stayed. I had 3 children, so there wasn't much time for anything else. We moved from Scotland to Warwickshire to Cheshire, and consequently I got a little bit bored when the children got older. I thought, what can I do? And a friend of mine I was playing golf with said, do you know, I need some help doing some phone calls for one of her contacts. She was in a PR company, owned her own company. So I said, yeah, I'll do that. And then she introduced me to GeoDelft, which was an environmental company not far from here. And I worked with them for a few months, and that's how RSK then bought them. And I stayed within the company, and that's how it kind of developed. It wasn't something I chose to do. It was something that I kind of fell into unintentionally, and decided, well, actually, I think I'm quite good at it. I've been doing it now for 17 years. It's not everybody's cup of tea, sort of what the old phrase was, cold calling. but I don't see it as that. I think it's more of a relationship building. We're not hard selling anything. I kind of just like to do a soft approach and just build, as I said before, the relationships. So yeah, that's my sort of little backstory. There's been lots of other little tiny jobs in between just to keep myself busy, but yeah, I've always been doing something that's selling wise, oddly enough.
It's interesting. We've had some, but it's definitely been a minority of people who have come into this industry on purpose. Like the mass majority are like, oh, it just happened. I love it, but it wasn't on purpose. It just happened. I don't know how I ended up here. Which is kind of interesting, because I feel like everyone who comes in with that kind of story, I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think there's the perception that everybody else came in on purpose, when a lot of people have just ended up here by accident. And it's a lot more normal than you think.
In life, you in this industry or this sort of type of work that we do, you don't sort of plan to do it at all. I don't think there's any real sector or training that you get to do it. Either you've got that kind of personality that wants to not only help, but that they have an affinity with it. I think when it comes to what I do, which is environment, it's not necessary because I'm an eco warrior or that I have a genuine interest in it, and I can see a bigger picture to it, as opposed to, oh well, it's just a job, I'll just do it, that sort of thing. I actually did it back in 2004 when I started. I actually did have an interest in the environment, we all do, but I think there was just a spark of interest. But I never ever thought that I'd be doing it for as long as I'm doing it now. I've done it now.
So what's that bigger picture for you, or the bigger context that drives you?
We leave a legacy. We ensure that, or I'd like to think that the impact of ensuring that companies do the right thing now in my sort of head is and it's bringing an awareness of that, and certainly the last week or so, climate change has made a real headlines, and I think is starting to wake people up that there is a necessity to do something now. It's not just something on a piece of paper that says, oh well, I've got to do this survey and I've got to do that. There is a purpose to it, and there is a real there's real evidence that it's changing, and through our sustainability teams, through our biodiversity teams and rewilding, etc., on some of the nature positive companies that we work with, there is an urgency. They can see it. I mean, it's been around for the last 30 years. People have been talking about it for a long time, but it's only now as the impact starting to raise its head, and you can see it happening. And I want to leave a bit of a legacy, or try, in my own little way, an awareness and a legacy for my grandchildren. It's something that's quite important now. So yeah, there is a bigger picture.
I want to ask you. You said you were playing golf with a friend. So let's talk about golf for a minute, because we haven't had a golfer on here yet, and I'm feeling some love for this topic. So how long have you been playing? How often do you play? Yeah, come on, tell me all about it.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it goes back a long, long way. I've been playing since I was about 5 or 6. My dad is an ex-pro. He helped build this is another saga story, but he helped build a golf course in Norway many, many years ago after the war, in Stavanger. And he basically, when he came back here, he'd married my mother, and we were made to play golf, dragged out in school holidays in North Wales in the wind and the rain to play golf. Came in frozen. I was sent on golf courses to golf lessons in permafrost to play to be taught golf. That was what I was being told I had to do, really. And then obviously rebelled and didn't want to do any of that after a bit. And I think it was in my early 20s I started getting back into it. And I play now quite competitively. I play for quite a few teams within our golf club. And try and play twice a week if I can. It's quite difficult when you're working the hours I work to get that in. But yeah, very keen, quite ambitious on it. Playoff 10.9, I think it is, in the new handicap system or whatever it is. So yeah. And going up to Scotland to play in St Andrews on the 8th of August for the ladies tournament up there called the Strathtyron.
That's very, very cool.
Yeah, there's a group of us going up. So yes, played quite a few of the courses up there for the week. I'll be absolutely shattered. It's 2 courses on the Sunday as a practice round and then every day that week. So yes. It'll be quite a challenge and it'll no doubt wind and rain again. So, yeah, it'll be good fun.
I think that's quite funny, actually, what you were saying at the start, because, I mentioned this before we started recording, but I've always tried to get into golf because I have a lot of friends who do it, but I don't get it. It doesn't seem to be for me. But what you described is very, very similar to my childhood of just being other sports, but just being dragged out into all sorts of weather to do the things that the hobbies that my dad had. So for me, my dad's a big sailor, for example. So it was I'd always say no and didn't want to go. And now I'm so grateful for it now that I have those skills and that I can do those things. So I'm very happy that I was dragged out against my will, and I'm sure you are now as well. What is it about golf that you like?
Just a bit of a challenge. It's the most frustrating game I think anybody could ever play. You know, you have a great day, and it has the great golf gods have a wonderful way of knocking you down to earth when you think you come off and say, I've got this. I've played really well. I've scored well. I think I can do this next time, and you get it in your head and you go out and you play as if you've never picked up a golf club before. And it has that ability to just sort of knock you down, say, right, just stay there, don't get above yourself. It's, I'm going to make sure that you stay focused and don't get above anything.
It looks like a very simple game, except that it isn't, because you need to have so many different skills. So although it's a bag of clubs, to the outsider it's a bag of clubs, each club has such different requirements of the player. And I know, my son plays, and I watch him 3 times a week going and playing, and he's been playing since he was 4 at his choice, and we've supported him, and he's 13 now, and he wants to be a pro, and that's where he's heading with it. But that dedication, even he'll go out one day and he'll be absolutely perfect, as you say, and then the following day you go out and the same conditions, the same everything, and just nothing wants to go right. And he's a perfectionist, and for a perfectionist it's a real challenge.
Yeah. It's the most frustrating, but it's the most rewarding as well. It's there's something that brings you back time and time again. And of all the sports I've ever done, it's it's one of those that I've played all my life. I've played tennis. I've ridden horses competitively. I've done all the sailing as well. Not as competitively probably as you have, but more leisurely. Badminton, anything, any sort of sports. The only sport I can't do is skiing. I'm absolutely useless and very dangerous on skis, which is quite upsetting, really, because it looks so glamorous when everyone's skiing down the slopes and doing all the things. Oh, I just love to be able to do that, but no, I am an absolute danger on snow skis. Water skis fine, snow skis, yeah, I'm a danger to all on that front.
Yeah, Lina's a bit of an expert at the skiing.
Yeah, we match well there. because skiing I can handle. It's golf I can't, but skiing I've got under control, both the water and the snow type. I thought the two skills were linked, but maybe they're not.
Better just stay on the golf course on 2 feet and just walk. That's my aim.
So does that competitiveness that clearly isn't linked to golf as much as it is your personality then, because you said with the tennis and horse riding as well, you're quite competitive. Does that feed into why you like your job role and what you do at work?
The need to do well for myself and also for our clients and the company, really. I think it's almost down to loyalty. I don't know. I think it must just be in my trait. It's not a subconscious thing. I think it's a need to succeed and ensure that we do a good job. You know, I don't like to leave things. I must have that nature that a job has to be finished or completed. A project has to be finished or completed, and I get quite frustrated if it doesn't. Obviously, the IT issues I had before, I was determined to resolve them, but and that goes again. It goes with everything, really, doesn't it? In life, you know, you just want to know that you've done a good job is foremost in my head, really. So it's not necessarily competitive. It's just the ability to ensure I feel better, that I've done something well, and hopefully we instill that in our team as well. You know, I don't like to say put people up against each other in that respect in our team. They've all got their individual ways of working and their own individual talents, I should say. So we nurture those and ensure that we get the best out of them in their own individual way, and that goes across the whole group, really. In the environment that we work, it's very much family orientated. Even though we're over 10,000 people now, you know, it's a huge company globally. That family trait, you can approach any of the directors in the company and sit down with them, and you don't feel that hierarchy that a lot of corporate businesses have. And I think that's quite important. You feel nurtured and you feel an individual there, which is quite nice.
Unfortunately, although I want to keep talking for ages, we're nearly at the end. So I'm going to squeeze in the question we ask everybody before we wrap this one up, which is, in 5 years' time, where would you like to see the industry, or where do you see the industry going?
The industry I'm in, I think it will be looking more at supporting sustainability for businesses. It will have grown probably 3 times. Our business especially will have grown about three times bigger. Environmentally, I think it will be more prominent for everybody. I'm hoping that we might reverse some of the carbon challenge, you know, the carbon challenge that's out now, that we'll be more stable as an environment, as a global community. You know, I hope in that way it'll be more sustainable, and people will realise that, yeah, we're on borrowed time if we don't change our ways, and our industry will grow more into that sector. So I hope that answers your question.
No, that's a really important note to end on as well, because I think everyone's thinking in those ways, but probably not sure how to achieve it. Maybe we need a follow-up conversation, because I think you probably have at least a fraction of that answer. No one has the full answer, but something in the right direction anyways.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Engineering Rebuilt. We hope you enjoyed being part of the conversation. Please join us next time to hear more diverse stories from people who are reclaiming their narrative to rebuild engineering.